What's up, everybody? Got myself a clean shave on my way to a game later tonight. And I'm kind of tired already because I just came from two games yesterday. One being held at Game Cave by the people there, and the other being hosted by my buddy Terry as like a more of just, our friends sort of get together because Game Cave was hosting a Call of Cthulhu game, and we all wanted to go because that shit rarely happens anymore. It happens on clearly the rare day of Friday the 13th, and mostly they host like one game every like Halloween of Call of Cthulhu, and it's normally 7th edition. And other than that, nah, not at all. So we all ended up going, and it was a pretty crazy time. I go into more detail about that particular adventure when I'm re-going over all my Call of Cthulhu stuff. But Terry got so fucking like sort of offended that the Friday the 13th game wasn't actually going to be about Friday the 13th. So he got us all together and he pulled this thing where, like, after we had made our character sheets that we were going to be teenagers at Camp Crystal Lake, right? Now, I've done a Friday the 13th game, but I didn't tell them where they were going and what they were there for. I was just like, yeah, you're teens and you've gone camping up at this, cavernous lake area. And that's, that was the game we were running at the time. And so they were constantly like waiting for, the ultimate punchline of what thing from the dark reaches of Call of Cthulhu I was going to drag out to come and ruin their day. And honestly, I had them play for quite a while, just as far as like character development was concerned, and and then halfway through, I sprung Jason Voorhees on them, and I had him just bust through the door, and that particular game worked. But here's the thing, and this is what I learned from last night. No offense to my buddy Terry, but the thing I learned about the Friday the 13th game that I hosted a long while back, and it wasn't even on Friday the 13th, I just decided to do it randomly, was it was more so of a surprise, and when the initial surprise of the first time he shows up halfway through the fucking game, when the novelty of it is over and done with, you can't just do it again. It's like having lightning in a bottle. They're not expecting Jason to show up, and so if you do it a second time, even if you pretend like it's something else and then Jason shows up halfway through, well, then they just realize that they're characters in a Friday the 13th Call of Cthulhu style-esque game. And then it's just like, oh, okay. Because the second Jason shows up, the game is practically almost over at that point. Because at that point, everybody's just running and hiding and trying to prolong the inevitable because you have a big-ass fucking, murder machine just juggernaut running through and just, there's no stopping him, by that point you're gonna die. End of story. and it's just to see who can survive the longest, who's going to die in what way, and who's going to be, basically who's going to be the last one standing and how they're going to die, right? And the novelty of that wears off right after the initial suspense of mystery is broken in the first game, and you have Jason come out there and kill everybody, and it's it's one of those moments where like, oh shit, it's Jason Voorhees, we're all gonna die, run, and then you have him slaughter everybody, and that's the game. But you don't do it again because the novelty is essentially worn off, right? Even if it is halfway through, even if you are trying to deceptively mislead your players into thinking it's something else. But the thing is that going into it, nobody was really misled as to what Terry wanted to do. He just wouldn't really say it, and we were like, all right, I guess we'll play it. We've got nothing else to do, really, on a Friday night. So we almost went to see a movie in theaters the night prior, and there was an issue where we had to get things rescheduled, so we ended up seeing it Friday night after the first game, and then when we came back, Terry wanted to host his game. And so by that point, we were all just kind of like burned out, and we really didn't care, and we just, they're like, yeah, sure, we'll hang out, I guess, and put a horror movie on in the background and shit, and started, drawing up character sheets, and, kind of half-assedly too, because it's like, we all kind of somewhat subconsciously knew what we were getting into, and that these characters were most likely going to be, slaughtered, and the character sheets, just trashed at the end of the game anyways. And, sure enough, and so the mystery of the whole Call of Cthulhu game was instantly over from the start, not only from the initial intention of what the game, was prompted to be, what we all thought for sure it was going to be, because Terry had complained about it earlier, but also because there was no, there was no deceptiveness about any of it. We showed up, he told us where we were, he told us, yeah, you're these teenagers and stuff, and you're going up to Camp Crystal Lake in order to have a good time and party and, fornicate and do stupid teenager shit, which will ultimately lead you to get murdered. And, right off the bat, Jason Voorhees shows up. Not a long game at all, maybe like a few hours tops. And that was just because he was busy describing each and every, detail of death. So, yeah, that was the game. Thank God we're playing D&D tonight. Our current mainstay D&D campaign. So, yeah, thank God for that. Jesus.